Hello, I'm so excited to be on your screen once again. For those of you who have waited for so long for this video to drop because I've been out on daddy's duties, I want to say thank you for waiting around. And so now I'm back. So today, what do I have to share with you? I have something very interesting to pass across to you, and so I crave your indulgence to stay with me and stick with me for the next few minutes. Today I want to speak to you about two ways of solving problems. The world today revolves around problem solving. Monies change hands day after day based on this principle, based on problem solving. You give money to people in exchange for the solutions that they have to a problem you are either trying to overcome or you are trying to avoid. So it is really important that we learn this art of problem solving. That's the entire idea of creativity. Creativity is not creativity if creativity is not deployed to solving problems. So let's talk about problem solving. There are two basic ways to solve problems. The first way is what I call the brute force approach to solving a problem, and then the second way is what I call the efficient approach to solving problems. Now I'm going to explain these two different ways of solving problems with a real world example. Now the first way of solving problems, which I call the brute force approach, is, for example, let's say you have someone who is in need of urgent 2k. In other words, the person is broke, he has more bills than money. There are two ways that person could solve that problem. The first way could be brute force approach. Now, brute force approach normally only cares about getting a working solution to that problem at that time. It doesn't care if it is suboptimal. It doesn't care if it's not scalable or not sustainable. Brute force approach only cares that that problem can be solved at that particular time. And now the problem we have with brute force approach to solving a problem is that it's not sustainable. So for example, the individual who is in need of urgent 2k and is calling someone and is saying, bros, I beg, if you help me with urgent 2k. In other words, I'm in need of money, I'm broke, I need you to give me some handouts. Now, when you call someone like that, first of all, it gives a bad representation of your personality and of your value. Now, there are many people who find themselves in that situation and who have no choice but to deploy that approach to solving their problems, and that is totally fine. But the purpose of this video is to let you know that brute force approach can only work within a limited spectrum of time and space. So you need to be thinking of a better way of solving that kind of problem if you are using the brute force approach or if you have used the brute force approach before. So there's nothing wrong with asking for urgent 2k when you are in dire need, but the point of this discussion is to tell you that you can do better. You can go from that level to a better level, to a more efficient way of solving that kind of problem. Now, I may be using this isolated example, but this example pretty much can be adapted into different scenarios. So in a nutshell, the brute force approach is not scalable, but it actually solves the problem there and then. It solves the hunger problem. It solves the problem of not having money to sort a particular issue there and then. But in the long run, that approach is not always reliable. A time may come when the people who normally give you handouts may not be able to sustain giving you handouts due to some circumstances beyond their control. So you need a more optimal solution, a solution that is scalable, sustainable, and efficient. That brings me to the second way of solving a problem, which I term the optimal way of solving a problem. So the optimal way of solving a problem is scalable. It can be adapted to different use cases, and it can actually solve the problem for many people at a time. So there's this adage that says there are many ways to the market, there are different ways to kill a rat, but we are looking for the optimal way. So in any problem you are solving, do not always settle for the first solution or the one that worked before. Always think in terms of the future. Always think in terms of, okay, what if I need to solve this same problem for 2, 3, 4 other people? So instead of thinking of solving the hunger problem for one person now, we're thinking, if I have this hunger problem for 5 people, maybe I have a family or I have friends that I want to help solve this same problem, can I really depend on this brute force approach? The answer is no. So that brings us to the need for a more optimal solution, and this solution is always scalable. Now, continuing with my previous illustration with the guy who is broke, instead of using the brute force approach of seeking urgent 2k, he can actually look within and figure out a way that he can use what he has to get what he wants in a legitimate manner, in a manner that pleases God and adds value to man. In doing that, you'll discover that that person will not be dependent. When next that need of money comes, he'll be able to not only solve the problem for himself, but also be able to solve it for other people. And that's the entire point of problem solving. I hope that by these few words of mine, I've been able to pass across these very fundamental ways of solving problems, the brute force way and the optimal way. In whatever you do and in whatever problem you're trying to solve in your life today, I encourage you to not settle for the brute force. You may have to use the brute force for the time being, but do not settle for the brute force approach. There's always a better way. And my prayer for you today is that you will receive the grace of God that will propel you into a more efficient way of solving whatever problem you are faced with. Thank you for listening to me today. Have a blessed day and have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.